Hello, and welcome to Vistatec Life Sciences In Focus podcast, discussions with inspiring people from all around the life sciences world. I'm your host for today, Teresa Lawless, and I'm delighted to be joined by Magdalena Daccord. Hi, Magdalena. Welcome today.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So just a brief introduction. Magdalena is CEO of FH Europe Now Foundation and has transformed patient advocacy, moving from traditional approaches to connecting networks and reaching new stakeholders in the wider health space. Her strategic leadership saw the move of the organization to the Netherlands, securing the first EU-funded grant and expanding the scope of work, including an international task force for CVD prevention. Beyond her professional achievements, Magdalena is an advocate for women's empowerment and personal development. Her dedication to making a difference extends far beyond the boardroom, reflecting her commitment to creating positive change in healthcare and beyond. And we're so happy that you joined us here today. Magdalena, I've known you for a few years now, and I'm just really impressed with the work that you do, and it's great to be able to share that with our Vistatec Life Sciences audience. So just to kick off with, could you share your vision for FH Europe and how you envision making a lasting impact in improving awareness and access to care for inherited lipid conditions?
Thank you so much, Teresa. And before I go into answering the question, I just wanted to say how delighted I am to be coming back. It's good that we create the impact and it's being recognized by a global player like yourselves, and you feel compelled to invite us, which is as well a great recognition for us. So thank you, and thank you for the introduction. I think since the last time we talked, I'm extremely privileged to actually work with a team now. So all the credit goes to all of us, and I think it's important to emphasize that. You ask a very important question, because the problem of awareness, general awareness around inherited lipid disorders is still very low around the world. As you are an organization that deals quite a lot with communication as such and communicating to people, I think we should start by deciphering something as simple to us and as complex maybe to someone else listening in, what inherited lipid conditions are. It's basically disorders, conditions, health issues related to having higher cholesterol or lipids in your blood, which are driven by your genetics. And it's very much independent from your lifestyle, what you eat and what you do. It's basically being born with a predisposition. And very often those conditions lead to cardiovascular disease, meaning heart disease issues. So if anyone listening in has got issues with their heart, arteries, this might be something of interest. And I think, when we talk about raising awareness, it's really important that we help people who we want to influence or communicate or get to do something with us to understand the real issue and the sheer size of the problem. People living with familial hyperlipidaemias, familiar for genetic inherited, and hyper for very high, and lipid for those exactly lipids like cholesterol and other lipid disorders, need to understand that the affected population around the globe is above 4 billion people. So it's really, really an issue that affects all of us in one way or another. And so it's really important that raising awareness, we have a message that's for the right audience, the right outlet, the right language, the right format. But I think beyond raising awareness and helping people understand what we are about, it's really backing it up with the right policies and making sure that the healthcare systems can actually respond to the urgencies and the needs, and also in a way that is not reactive but proactive, promoting health rather than disease. And with that goes the all interesting topic of funding, making sure that we invest in health rather than disease. But, Teresa, when preparing for this podcast, I was thinking probably most of the people would give the same answer. It's about, funding policies, systems, and so on and so forth. I think what FH Europe Foundation is progressively now doing is as well trying to change people's behaviors. To change behavior, it's important to understand people's perceptions, motivations, and barriers when we talk about health and when we talk about prevention. It's really being able to understand what motivates people, the incentives, whether you're just a general everyday person or a policymaker or a doctor, insurance company, and so on and so forth. So I think there is one side to it, communicating, helping people understand, improving health literacy, but on the other hand, making sure that we actually understand our audience, how to communicate with them, and what to motivate them. So I think that would be probably one of those fundamental but most important things we do right now.
Excellent. And I love Magdalena as well, that, really it's the people that are completely at the heart of this. It's each and every individual that, that this engagement and this awareness is about. So, that really comes out actually in this response. I love it. Thank you. And how does FH Europe collaborate with organizations then as well, say both within and outside the healthcare sector, to kind of help achieve your mission?
It's complex. It's complex because, again, there is a plethora of different organizations and different motivations that those organizations have and missions. And it's really making sure that we can build synergies and communicate the right way and demonstrate that what we're trying to achieve goes in line with their focus and mission. And I think, as you said, there are people and organizations within the direct reach and within the sort of first circle around us, and that's one group. But there's also this sort of I like to say galaxy of other stakeholders that are important, and we sometimes forget to include when we talk about changes in health. I would like to call out on few organizations, and as you said, how we work with them. So we definitely want to make sure that whatever we do is in collaboration with the network of patient organizations. They are the first and critical stakeholder group for us, making sure that we understand people on the ground and their challenges and opportunities. So that's the network of growing patient organizations. But then beyond that, we have medical and scientific organizations. And I could not emphasize it enough how important it is that whatever we communicate with the world is backed up by science, by data, by evidence. So it's really important that we are both part of that movement, collaborating with those organizations, but also being seen and recognized as someone who values and understands this complex system of scientific data. And how we collaborate, I think the first thing was for us to set up scientific advisory committee and policy and innovation committee and bring the people who are influencers in those respective groups to collaborate with us, to recognize our commitments to do the things right. And at the same time, at FH Europe, we set up the industry roundtable to ensure that, for example, life sciences are engaged and understand where we go and how we can build synergies. Progressively, obviously, the ambition is to reach out to stakeholders in more innovative spaces, maybe a little bit outside of the traditional and conventional way of doing health and health promotion. We're getting there. And that's definitely our ambition. There are some great examples, but I wouldn't necessarily want to single out any specific organization.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And what are the most significant challenges you face in your advocacy work? How do you approach overcoming them?
I'm laughing because I think, when I first applied for the job, I thought it would be so easy, but it's probably overcoming the challenges, the big strategic challenges as well as the everyday challenges. And I think it would be unfair not to mention that on one hand, there are those challenges related to running a non-for-profit organization in a very peculiar space, which is a patient public health space, which is highly controlled by specific rules of funding, compliance, and so on and so forth. And that poses a lot of challenges on a day-to-day basis. But it's important to understand as well that you can only understand our as I said, daily challenges if you come to the side of the table. I think a lot of people make some preconceived sort of judgments, and I think it's really important to understand how patient organizations run to appreciate the complexity. We are severely underfunded, and as a result, we very often cannot have the right amount of people, expertise, and time drawing on volunteers. And running organizations like ours with volunteers poses a lot of complexes and challenges as well. When you run an organization on a shoestring and have ambitions and want to be punching above your waist, that's survival. But I think it's also important to understand that there are other challenges. And again, the challenges in terms of perceptions and understanding and communication. And I think it's extremely important to understand, and it ties in with the previous statement. It's about knowing what you communicate, how you communicate, and who you communicate to. And it's really understanding that it's different if you go to a policymaker, it's different when you go to a sponsor, it's different when you go to a scientific community, and then everyday public out there, and people are different. So I think the challenge is there that even though the issues of inherited lipid conditions are so big and affect all of us, it's still not necessarily relevant to everyone. It sounds like a distant reality. So we are really trying to exercise other approaches. And I would be definitely keen to explore a little bit this with you, again, considering that you have such a great outreach when it comes to a global community. I think, let me take an example. Communicating on awareness days. We have quite a lot of those, and it should be pretty simple with all the tools and digital solutions that we have today. But it's important to recognize that certain topics might be delicate. We're talking about genetic conditions. We're talking about accessibility to treatment. We're talking about novelties, reimbursement, funding, healthcare systems. It's important to know that there's one way of communicating with someone in Italy,
Yes.
which cannot be used exactly the same way if you communicate to a group of people in Middle East. Whatever we communicate to someone in the north of Europe, the Nordic countries, is going to be completely different to how you do it in Latin America. And I think it's not just translating word by word. It's really capturing emotions, cultures, behaviors, and capturing it in a way that speaks to your audience. And I think sometimes we tend to forget it. We use those sort of solutions, one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work. And we know that.
Yeah, it's hugely important. And I see that, like I've been in the industry for about 20 years or so, but I think there's so much more respect now for, having, communications that they resonate in the local language. And it's not enough anymore to just take an English piece and translate it word for word into other languages. You have to totally understand the audience. You have to understand the culture, and you have to translate or maybe transcreate that content so that it resonates with people, in the target language, and also just respecting, local policies. There's so much that kind of comes under consideration, and I think you've always had a huge understanding of that as well. In the life sciences fields. So yeah.
Agreed. And you know what?
Yeah.
It's complex and it takes time, and it
Yeah.
also takes time to convince the decision makers, or maybe the people who actually own sometimes the budgets, how important it is, that it's better sometimes to target less people but right
Yeah.
than way
Yeah.
too many people but
Yeah.
without much of an impact.
Yeah. No, totally agree. Yeah. Very good. And when we're talking, like, I love the fact that it's the human individual that's so important in all of this. Could you share a memorable patient story or maybe experience that illustrates FH Europe's positive impact on someone's life, and how does this kind of motivate you and your growing team? Great to hear that you have a growing team, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Teresa, I was trying to figure out which would be the most relevant story to share with the audience, with people listening, and I just thought, how could I even try? As I said earlier, we represent anyone, we represent a potentially 4 billion people community around the world. And how can you pick up one story? It's a really huge task. And in each case is so different and so personal, as you said, just like, like the people who live with this condition and their experience on a day-to-day basis. And then said, I thought, if we're too general, it might not necessarily resonate with some of the audience. So I don't think we need to look far for any of those stories. I don't think I can single out one, but I would like to just go as far as our team. And I wanted to highlight that at Advocacy Europe Foundation, we try to engage people both on the team who have lived experience and a professional experience in a specific area, as well as build a community of ambassadors. So people who either live with the specific condition or are family members, because again, it's important to emphasize that none of the conditions is down to an individual in our case. Those are genetic. So there is at least one parent or at least one child who has inherited it. So it really, it's a family affair that we need to talk about. And so, those stories are very moving, and they, as you said, they get me out of my bed every morning thinking, what can we do? How can we do it? Or how can we help this person? Or how can this story inspire someone else to take action? And I'm so delighted and so proud to say that we are now able to touch the hearts of adults as well as young children who come on board and help us advocate, driven by their own experience. There is a young boy who is just 8 in Lebanon, who basically decided to join our awareness campaign to say, I am so fed up with explaining everyone every day at school my condition so that they just accept me and I can get the care that I need. And his mother coming on board to say, I never knew that my child would survive a certain age because I was told that there was no hope for him, which in actual fact is not true. The boy can live a normal life as long as he's got access to the right medical care. And there he is, an 8-year-old boy in Lebanon. There is another, as I said, on our team, we have a group of people from the UK, from South Africa, from the Netherlands, who have impressive stories. We have advocates who now volunteer. They bring their very dramatic, very emotive stories to the parliament, to congresses, and share, even though it's so personal, because they want to change the status quo. They do it for themselves as well as for the children.
Yeah.
So I've listed a lot of those, but I think what really matters the most is that um, there are differences of challenges, there are different challenges, there are different stories, and just like cultures, languages, and healthcare systems, all of them differ, and we need to take it one by one as much as we can.
Yeah. I think it's amazing, that, people, with this condition, even, 8-year-old boys are looking, to kind of raise awareness, and that through FH Europe, they found a voice, to be able to do that as well, and a platform. And, you've got people volunteering with your organization and, becoming ambassadors for the organization. So, yeah.
Teresa, I think what I would really like to use this opportunity and translate to the audience is I would like FH Europe and to be the organization that invests the time and effort to build trust, so people who are within our community feel like it's safe to share their stories, because it is very personal, but it also with any of the familial hyperlipidemias. So whether it's FH, the first, the first condition that we started with, so familial hypercholesterolemia, elevated Lp(a), or FCS, all of them are genetic, so they will be affecting someone else, your relative, and depending on the country you live in, there might be some repercussions. Healthcare system, insurance, access to loans within the bank system, or access to workforce and equality when it comes to getting your job. Those people take a lot of risks today still to share something so personal, and that might then affect their relatives. Yet I would like to think that we've created enough of a firewalls when it comes to trust, to do it with their consent in a way that it's informed, and they feel, as you said, that they have a safe space to advocate for themselves as well as others.
Yeah.
And I cannot emphasize it enough.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think you'd mentioned even, when we were having a call previous to this, I think it was equally equal, which I thought was actually, yeah. Yeah. And it just made me kind of, think a lot. And, different countries obviously have different access to, to healthcare as well. So, yeah. So looking ahead, what are FH Europe's key goals and initiatives for the next few years? And how do you plan to continue raising awareness and improving care?
Yeah. Teresa, I always thought that having a plan and then just following it is very simple. But we live in such a dynamic world where we, as an organization that depends a lot on external stakeholders, we really have to be adaptable, extremely adaptable, and very flexible, and review our plans and strategy on a regular basis. That said, we are now in a sort of a 3.0 FH Europe Foundation stage, and it's really important to look back to see what we've achieved. And now with the move to the Netherlands and building new board of trustees and new governance, we are also working towards putting a strategy which is fit for purpose. And I can again just emphasize how important it is to us to do the right things right. And I want to add, for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what we're looking at. The all boring yet important, processes in place so that we can actually be effective on a day-to-day basis, making sure that the team understands how, what, why, where, and then securing that we have the foundations right. Mission, vision, strategy, governance, processes helps us secure the right projects, the right funding, and being really future-proof. It's really trying to work with our external stakeholders to convince them about the importance of personalized prevention, precision medicine, the innovation means sometimes, as I said, doing the right things right for the right reasons, and doing it in a way that we can take the community on board with us. But it's part of my personality, and I think as long as I'm CEO, there has to be a bit of a room for spontaneity and flexibility, as I said. And you mentioned that, and I want to underpin to make sure all thing human about FH Europe is always at the core of what we do. We exist here to serve the community.
Excellent. Good. And so just lastly, is there anything else you'd like to share with our Vistatec Life Sciences audience today, or our industry?
Thank you for the Joker question, Teresa. I always take those very happily.
Yeah.
I think that I would like to invite everyone who is listening to maybe ask themselves a question, which is the sort of a personal prevention question. Do I understand what they were talking about, and is it affecting me or not? Can I do something to prevent my heart health? And if anyone listening has got any suspicion of issues that we could help resolve, reach out to us. I'm pretty sure we can share our details. But also, if there is any organization or any individual who would like to be part of the community by helping, volunteering, sharing any ideas in terms of reaching out to the world, making sure that we can reach people with unmet needs in distant areas. I forgot to mention that, in our last campaign on homozygous familial hypercholesterolemia, we decided to offer platform for people from remote countries in Africa and Middle East, and they were recording their movies in their own languages. I didn't even know that those languages existed. How embarrassing is that?
Yeah.
And I think let's use Vistatec as a platform to help raise awareness and prevent cardiovascular disease. The FH Awareness Day is coming up on September 24th, only 5 days away from the World Heart Day. So I would like to use this as an opportunity to call on everyone listening in. Please have your cholesterol checked. It's a simple blood test which can save potentially your life and the life of your family members. And on the day itself, help us raise awareness by posting, sharing, and it would be great to activate the global community that you guys are part of with Vistatec. So thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, look, we've spoken for years. I think, we've worked on some campaigns together in the past and I know that we'll always help promote FH Europe when it comes to your awareness days. And I know you have a really interesting logo competition at the moment. So we will definitely try to, maybe promote that through our social media pages as well.
I would love that. I see you're better at promoting us than myself. So thank you. Yes, there is a logo competition to bring the global community together. So thank you for raising that one.
Yeah,
thank you.
Excellent. Okay, well, look, it's so lovely to have this chance to connect and meet today. So that's the end of today's show with Magdalena. We are very, very pleased and love the discussion. Please make sure to tune in again for next month's Vistatec Life Sciences in Focus show, discussions with truly inspiring people from all around the life sciences world. Thank you.